Yeah, this is Russell Boer here with WITY Radio, and we're going to do an interview here. And we got probably one of the oldest tractors on the grounds right here, a steam engine, 1911 Case, 110 horsepower Case. And we're going to have Mr. Bill Jansen, and he got a couple of boys here, Jesse and Dustin. They run this thing over here at the Half Century Progress, and we're going to talk to Bill about this thing and ask him kind of questions about it and what it's done and where it's been all its life. Bill Jansen from Diedrich, Illinois. Tell us a little bit about the tractor and where you got it.
Good morning, Russell. Thank you. We bought the steam tractor about 8 years ago from a guy named Graham Sellers. He's a friend of ours from Coldwater, Michigan, and he come up to me one day at a show and got me around the corner of a steam engine and said, "We want your family to have it because we know it'll be showed." So we was very privileged to be asked to buy one because they're very rare, and so that made us feel good, and we got the deal worked out. So.
It is a very rare tractor because when you get to the bigger horsepower, there's just not too many of them ever made, was there?
There wasn't. Case made about 990, and there's about 29 left today, and there's about a half a dozen that actually operate. So
it is hard to come by parts that way. You don't go to your Case store to buy parts, do you?
I tried that once, and it didn't work. But we have a good friend in Middlefield, Ohio, that makes anything we need. If you got a thick enough billfold, you can get anything made for it. So
that's about what it takes, though. Sometimes just money. But
yeah.
Now tell us a little bit about this. It is a steam engine, and it's no different than like a boiler in a school or any place else. You have to have it inspected every year.
Yes, the state of Illinois requires a boiler inspection every 2 years. The first time they do it when you buy it is they ultrasound the whole thing, and they got a calculation. That's what your pressures determine on. And this boiler is 104 years old, but it is like brand new yet. And we carry maximum pressure on it, what it did 104 years ago, which is 175 pounds.
That develops a lot of power. And the more pressure, the more power, right?
That's exactly right. It's kind of like tractor puller. The more boost they make in a diesel motor, the more horsepower. So the more pressure we carry, the more horsepower we can develop.
It does make a difference. I know you can put it on the dyno. You've had it on the dynamometer before, right?
Yes, we had. 2 years ago, we was at Wauseon, Ohio. That's the National Thrashman Show. That's the oldest Thrashman show there is. And we had it on what they call a Prony brake, which back then tested horsepower on steam engines. And we pulled 161.5 horsepower and 2,500 foot-pounds of torque. And I don't keep records, but there was a guy called me a couple weeks later and said that was the highest horsepower ever pulled by 110.
And that's a lot of torque too. I mean, when people think of torque, you know, they talk about torque in pickups. You know, maybe it might develop 800 foot-pounds of torque. That's a lot, but now you just quadrupled that almost.
Yes, and we have modern farm tractors. We have a 2-year-old 550 horse Case IH Steiger, and I think the torque on it is 2,050. And that's a 550 horse tractor, so the 110 horse Case, which developed 161.5 horsepower, developed 2,500 foot-pounds of torque. That is a lot of torque.
That's a lot of torque. If you think of a torque wrench, how long of a torque wrench you'd have to make that torque, it's a lot. It's a lot.
That would be a long one.
Like I say, this is a family deal. Tell us a little bit about Dustin and Jesse and even Phyllis. Tell us about your wife or just a little bit. Tell us who, because it takes a family to run all this, because you guys got more than just one engine at home. You got, what, 5 or 6?
7 altogether. So yeah, it takes a lot. It takes everybody. The boys, my wife and I have 4 boys and a daughter. They all know how to run a steam engine. And my wife's, actually, if you want to know the story, when Graham asked us to buy it, I told her what, he wanted for it, and she said, "Oh, you're not going to buy that steam engine. That's too much money." And so, anyway, Herb Beckmeyer had a sale, and Jesse bought his steam engine, and we was driving down the road. She picked up my phone, and she actually bought this steam engine for me. So,
boy, that was really nice. Was that your birthday or something?
It was a forever birthday Christmas present, she said. So anyway, she's really involved in it. She helps get us meals and stuff at the camper because, you got to be here all the time when the steam engine's steamed up. So she really gets there and helps. The boys help. It's a tremendous amount of work to load these things and to keep them going. It's just a labor of love, and all the boys dig in, especially Jesse and Dustin. They're here all the time with us, and it's just a good family hobby. We've met so many good people in this hobby over the the 40 years or whatever we've been in it. It's just, and that's priceless.
It is, and you like say you meet so many people doing this, going to different shows, and you look forward to going to the show because you know that person's going to be there.
Exactly. It's just like here at the Half Century of Progress. You know, we've been here from the get-go, and the friends we developed over the years, this has been going. It's just been tremendous, and it's just, you just can't do any better than having good friends.
That's right. You know, like I say, you see somebody wave, and by golly, you haven't seen them for 2 years because this is every other year show.
Exactly. And my problem is they call me by name, and I got this thing called part-timers, and I tell them hi, but I can't remember everybody that comes up and talks to us. Because
it only gets worse, Bill.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
No, that's good. Like I say, it takes something. Now you was talking about steaming up and stuff. Like I say, you don't get in here and turn the key, do you?
No, you don't. We got here about 7 and clean the ashes and the flues, and then you build your fire. And a steam engine is a very high maintenance animal. There's things that you got to tighten up every day. We plowed yesterday, and you just got to stay after all that, because if you don't, then you break some. We broke a gear 4 years ago, not from neglect, but it just 104-year-old stuff's going to break. But we try our best to keep it maintained so we can put a show on for everybody. We get a lot of people that stop by and give us compliments, and that helps us keep going, because when it's 95 and you're loading that in the sun, it's like, man, there's got to be a better hobby than this. But
today's a good day, isn't it?
It is a beautiful day to run a steam engine. It's only 150 up there today instead of 180. So.
Yeah, it really makes a difference. Well, anything else you'd like to add about the engine?
Well, the engine was bought new in Alberta, Canada, from Case Company has come out of Racine, Wisconsin. It was bought new out there in Alberta, Canada. It pulled a 16-bottom plow. It broke the Canadian Prairie Virgin ground, and when it was 100 years old in 2011, we had a 16-bottom plow we pulled, just like it did in its day, and it did it fine. It just basically does what it does when it was new yet. And
that's really something, like I say. Now, will your 550 horse tractor that you got today be around 100 years from now so it can plow yet?
It would probably be recycled a couple times, I'm guessing.
That's what I'm thinking about all this new stuff. I don't think it's going to last like some of this old stuff.
I don't either. And it's a lot of work to maintain it, but it's really amazing that it can do what it did back 104 years ago.
It really is, like you say, you put it to the test out here, and like you say, I remember you talking about that broken gear, but like I say, you can get parts made, yes, but they have to hand make them.
Oh yeah, it's all handmade, and like I said, this guy, all he does, him and his 5 sons, is restore steam engines, and believe it or not, they got a 3-year waiting list on if you want to bring an engine in and get totally refurbished. That's how far they've backed up. So there is a few places in the United States that you can get about anything made you want.
And when they got that waiting list, it's not that they're going to get it in and out the door that same day either, are they?
No. We've got one out there now. We've just picked up before the American Thrashman show and got a new boiler built. And Jesse's got one we're going to get maybe in a month, and it'll have a new boiler built. We've got some really stringent laws in Illinois, and that's great because we want safe boilers. But we want to keep this going and going, so I hope my grandsons and great-grandsons will continue this hobby to show people how farmers made a living back in the steam era.
It was something, because like you say, that they broke the prairies with these things, and they thrashed and shelled. I mean, they used them, for a lot of belt work, but there was some traction work too. But it was really something that they had to go through to get to where we are today.
That is exactly right, and this is a rarity to have here in the Midwest, because the engines were used in western United States and western Canada. Yeah. And when you get them up in this area, it's a treat for the people, because they weren't made for this area. They were made for the western United States and Canada to break that prairie. And like I said, their jobs did not last very long. Once they got that broke, that was done.
Yeah, once they plowed it the first time, it was done. Like I say, they didn't have to come back next year and do it again.
And there wasn't a lot of companies. There was about 5 steam engine companies that built plow engines, and so there's just not a lot of them out there today, because World War II took a lot of them because of the scrap drives and stuff. But it's nice to be able to own one in this part of the world and show people what they did back in the time frame.
That's good. Well, thank you much, Bill. We really appreciate you being here and taking part of this and showing us your engine, because, like I say, that is like about a one-of-a-kind thing here, and we really appreciate it.
Well, Russell, thank you, and thanks for the Half Century of Progress for having us. And it's some great weather. I don't know who is in charge of ordering it, but I want to talk to them.
It is great weather and great crowd. A lot of stuff here, just a lot of one-of-a-kind stuff, and you've got one of the one-of-a-kind. So thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Russell.
Yep.